Okay. You probably haven't been back here in quite a while, so how has the union sort of changed since you were last here?
It's a lot cleaner because there was so much smoke, and it's much bigger. I mean, I came back about 10 years ago, but each time I've come back, a bit more's been done. I mean, what's reassuring for someone as old as me is that the basic structure of the union is as it was before.
Excellent, okay. So how do you feel about the attitudes towards free speech, especially considering that Leeds is a no-platform university and your experiences with the no-platform policy? How do you feel about that?
Well, we had this issue 50 years ago because it arose over a right-wing conservative politician who had what we now describe as racist views. He was a leading light in what was called the Monday Club, which was in favour of apartheid in South Africa and white supremacy. Some of the students felt that he should be denied a platform. Our view in the Students' Union Executive was that he should not be denied a platform, that you've got to hear people regardless of how objectionable their views are. And of course there are limits to free speech in any society, but in my opinion these have got to be set by the overall law, so that we have very strict laws, some of which I introduced as Home Secretary, restricting people's right to come out with racist or homophobic or anti-religious comments, but it's not for, in my view, for students or student unions or individuals to deny others a right to speak within the law. And it's incredibly dangerous as well, because bit by bit you move down a path where you're saying we shouldn't listen to that person because their view is objectionable, we shouldn't listen to that person.
Okay. So since your time campaigning here, particularly in the protests in the 1960s, do you think student activism has become sort of more or less prominent, more or less effective?
Well, it's much less prominent. I mean, one of the extraordinary things that happened at the end of the 60s, and my colleagues and I were just lucky that we happened to be on that wave, was that suddenly everybody was taking notice of students. And it was a sort of worldwide phenomenon. But the sit-in that I helped to lead here towards the end of the 67-68 academic year, it was caused by complete boneheadedness by the universities, because they had a former police superintendent who was collecting files on students he regarded as Rebs. Indeed, when his filing cabinet was accessed, he had a whole section called Reds, which meant people in the Communist Party, Trotskyists, people like me on the left of the Labour Party. It would never be allowed today, and we simply wanted an inquiry into this. But when one was refused, we had a sit-in over in the Parkinson building. And if the university had any sense, they would have just said, well, we're going to sit this out until everybody's going to go home in 2 weeks' time, but they didn't. They panicked, and we actually got what we wanted. And when I was president of the National Union of Students, in my view, we were taken too seriously. So if I went off with my executive to talk to the Vice-Chancellors about student grants, or to see Mrs. Thatcher, who was Education Secretary, to campaign against student loans, this would be on the 9 o'clock BBC News. Anyway, I'm very pleased that it was, and because it appeared as though we had power, we were able to stop a lot of things happening. But so in that respect, there's been a big difference now, because paradoxically there are many more students, thousands, hundreds of thousands more, but there is much less prominence given to student politics than there was. But the great thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that there's been an upsurge in interest by students and everybody aged 18 to 24, and we saw that in the general election, and that has to be a good thing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.